Hello and welcome to BP Gaming Network. This is video number 2 of our Out of the Park baseball series featuring the Oakland Athletics. In our last video, we did the introduction to the team and then checked out the entire active roster. So today we're going to go through our team strategy, check out the team finances, take a quick look at our upcoming free agents, and then quickly check out our minor league system. So let's get started. So from this page, this is where you have your bench coach. You can see our bench coach there is Ryan Christensen, and there's already a preset team strategy that's based on your bench coach. So each bench coach that you get has a different personality. His personality also comes with a different style of strategizing for baseball games. So when you click on ask the bench coach for his team strategy options, this is what you get. So what we're going to do today is quickly go through each of the individual strategies and see if we're satisfied with what he's suggesting, or if we want to tweak things a little bit. So right off the bat, I could see he's overly aggressive when it comes to stealing bases, which is our first strategy here. I mean, that's fairly aggressive when the scale is set up towards that end. We don't want to steal bases all the time. We definitely want to be slightly aggressive as a ball club, but we don't want to make it so that every chance we get, we're just stealing bases. There's some good catches out there in MLB, and you're going to get a lot of outs. And often an out means that's an opportunity for having a run on base being taken out of the inning. So you want to strategize and kind of balance the aggressiveness there. So we've tweaked that back down closer to the midpoint, where we're not too aggressive and we're not too passive when it comes to stealing bases. Our next strategy is base running. So we'll tweak that back down a little bit, not as far down as stealing bases, but just down a little bit. Base running strategy basically will dictate different situations when we'll try to advance runners. For example, when the ball is hit towards any area of the outfield and it's sort of shallow, are we going to take risks and have base runners trying to take the next base or trying to run home? You want to have a balance there. You don't want to be too passive, because you have to create opportunities, and sometimes you do have to take risks, and that's part of having a slightly aggressive base running strategy. So we're keeping that a little bit more aggressive than the average. And then use hit and run. Well, you don't see a lot of hit and runs nowadays. The hit and runs are risky. Not something that you want to constantly attempt to do. So we're going to tweak that a little bit down. There could be moments when a hit and run strategy may pay out. So you want to balance that out. You want to make sure that you're only utilizing that strategy when it's really the chances of it being successful is very high. So we're going to tweak that down a little bit. We don't want to be too aggressive there. Sacrifice bunts. Again, you don't see this a lot in modern day MLB. A lot of teams are not doing a lot of sacrifice bunts. It's still there, minimum. It's still minimal, but not the way that old school traditional baseball used to be. It's changing a little bit. So I'm not too sure about this strategy. I do have a bit of a traditionalist in me, where I still like to see guys, help out their teammates by advancing them across the base paths, and sacrifice bunts is one way to do that. So I'm going to leave that closer to the sort of middle average position, so that some chances we could do it, some chances we don't do it. Again, you can change these strategies anytime you want to. So, if you check out your stats and you think that you need to be more aggressive in one area, you can come back here and tweak these. This is just so that we have something set up for opening day, and at least for the first few games, until we have enough stats coming back so that we can evaluate how these strategies are working. So the other strategy is utilizing squeeze bunts. You don't want to be, at least in my opinion, you don't want to be overly aggressive in that area as well. Nowadays, teams are always prepared whenever the opportunity for a squeeze bunt comes up. You've got some teams like the Cubs. You'll get the third baseman coming up all the way, almost closer to where his pitcher might be, just to try and make sure that any squeeze bunt attempts thwarted out and not successful. So we'll try and just leave that in the middle. That's a strategy that I'll leave it 50-50 depending on situation. The next one is our pitching and defensive strategy. So how often do you want to pitch around batters? This could basically depend on multiple factors, but you kind of want to have your pitchers try to get guys to swing and miss, try to get guys to throw their timing off by not giving them the chance to sit there and predict every move the pitcher is going to do. So you do want your pitchers kind of pitching around guys from time to time. So we're going to leave that just a notch above the average level, so that it's still slightly aggressive but not overly aggressive. It's just my opinion, but you make that too aggressive, you're going to have a lot of walks, and that's something we want to avoid as much as possible. Intentional walks, well, this is something you don't see very often, and I'm not a believer in giving people free passes to a base. So I'd rather the pitcher fight it out with the batter. So no, I don't like giving up intentional walks. So we're going to tweak that back down significantly. In fact, I'm going to keep it at minimum. Play infield in. This is something that happens very often, obviously, with traditional baseball, and even in sabermetrics. Sabermetrics you do see teams shifting quite often. When there's a chance for double play, you move your infield in. So absolutely, we want to have that as part of our strategy, and we want to utilize that as much as possible. Because it just gives your infield a little bit of a better opportunity to make double plays, right? So it doesn't hurt to slightly be aggressive on that. Same with the next strategy, utilization of infield shifts. You don't want to overdo it. So this is a bit too aggressive, actually. I would bring that a notch down, but you certainly still want to shift in this modern day baseball games. Guys are predictable based on how they swing. You've got your pull hitters, you got guys who sit back and wait for pitches to come in further in before they swing. So with that information, you want to shift your infield and outfield around a little bit to increase the chances of reducing the hits. So we're going to leave that just slightly aggressive. It's just a notch beyond the average, and I'm good with that. And then as far as our substitution strategy, hooking starting pitchers, definitely I like, I'd like to hook the pitchers as soon as I notice that they're not being productive. So you don't want to leave your starting pitchers out there to kind of work things out if it's just not working out. By the time you decide to pull a pitcher, you're already maybe 3, 4, 5 runs down, and then it's hard to come back from that. So if you notice early that your pitcher is struggling, I want to be able to pull them as soon as we can. Now, you don't want to be overly aggressive on that either. You don't want to pull them just because they've given up a couple runs, but certainly you don't want to leave them in there too long. So I think being in the middle makes the most sense there. Same for hooking relievers. I like to kind of hook my relievers a lot sooner. So, they're not really designed to be there for too many innings anyway. And I know that could put a bit of strain on your on the stamina for your relievers, because fatigue will kick in if you keep using your entire bullpen every game. But it's about winning ball games. So if a reliever is struggling, we need to pull him out, especially when we have a lot more options on the reliever side than we do, of course, with the starting pitchers. So utilization, this is now Saber metrics, favoring the lefty righty matchups. Absolutely, I do prefer that. This is modern day baseball, so even if a team is not too aggressive on the sabermetrics, most teams nowadays take that into consideration. The stats definitely do show that hitting against the opposite arm of the pitcher is to your advantage. So pinch hit for pitchers, when the situation is necessary, and you want to do this mainly sort of towards the later stages of the game, starting from maybe your 7th inning going forward. Any earlier may not be wise, so I'll leave that in the middle just because it's situational based. Pinch hit for position player, again, you don't, that's not something you want to do all the time. I know we're in the DH league, so we do have the possibility to utilize this a lot more often, but I wouldn't want to do that all the time. But again, if we're somewhere in the 7th, 8th inning and we need to make up for some runs, and we notice a batter is struggling, or there's an advantage that we can utilize by playing on the matchups, then sure, absolutely. So overall, the utilization of pinch runners, I'd leave that sort of in the middle. It's situational based, so it's when the moment calls for it. So again, these strategies are for all times at all scores. So you try to keep them average, because some of them only come into play a lot more when a particular situation is in play. So you don't want to have anything really at 0, in my opinion, except for the intentional walks. I'm not a big fan of that. Well, so that's basically it for our team strategy. I think this is a good mix of strategy, a good combination of some aggressive strategies with some conservative strategies. I think that's a good balance. Like I said, we can always come back later and address that if need be at a later time, once we have a little bit more stats to use. All right, so next thing we're going to do is take a look at the team finances. So on this page here, you can see this is where we're at. So that's our budget, 88 mil. We're spending 64. Round up that, maybe you could say 65, close to $65 million on payroll. We don't have any money left for signing free agents. We have about $3.3 million left for extensions, so that's renewing any contracts that we need to extend. In a nutshell, this is not a team with a huge budget, so the strategies for acquiring players becomes very crucial when you're sort of managing a team like the Oakland A's. So the next tab will show us our team salaries, and you can see Chris Davis is earning the most. He's got $10 million for 2018. And then there's an option, I believe. Or is it arbitration? So that's potentially arbitration for 2019 if we don't extend him. Jonathan Lucroy is the next in line, earning 6.5 mil. He's set to be a free agent next year. So is Matt Joyce, Jet Lowry, and Santiago Casilla. So those are guys we're going to have to consider what to do with them before we get to July. It'll be time to start thinking if we need to, pull off some trades. I don't think we have any, at least at this point, I don't think we have any significant assets that we can leverage towards a trade right now. We have, just middle of the run ball players. Nobody is catching the eye of other teams, I would think, at this point. Maybe Chris Davis for his power, but I don't see anybody else really being a huge trade potential. But as the season progresses, it's something we're going to have to consider. So we'll take a look at the upcoming free agents. So like I mentioned, Jonathan Lucroy is probably one of our best players that soon is going to be a free agent next year. I like to filter this usually by pitchers and batters, so you get smaller numbers to look at, and also it shows you per each group. So if it's for your pitching staff, you get to see exactly who you're potentially looking to lose, and you can start to strategize. Most of these guys are minor leaguers, so you've got JB Wendelken, Jarrett Martin, Josh Lucas, Eric Jokic, Tucker Healy, Simon Castro, Frankie Montas, Angelo Duno, and Jeremy Bleich. All those are minor leaguers that we potentially could lose to free agency. Trevor Cahill and Santiago Casilla, they're in our active roster. I'm not too sure about Santiago Casilla. I mean, when I look at his age at 37 years old, I really don't see much of an upside in renewing his contract. So, and he's not an asset that you can consider to trade for anything worthwhile, really. He's 37 years old, so there's not a lot there. So I might just let him just go straight into free agency at the end of the year. Trevor Cahill, though, I mean, he's 30 years old. He still has some life in him. It'll have to depend on how well he performs. Of course, Eric Jokic, is a guy that one of the prospects that we've been keeping an eye out on. We'll have to see also how he performs. And basically all of them, it will be performance based. Of course, we don't want to lose all of them. So we'll be resigning most of these guys, but some of them we may have to let go. I'm thinking Santiago Casilla is one of them right now. As far as the position players, well, Jet Lowry is my biggest concern here. I definitely would want to re-sign Jet Lowry. I would want to re-sign Jonathan Lucroy. Let's see, and the rest. And Matt Joyce, yes. I mean, I would definitely consider re-signing Matt Joyce, and the vast majority of the minor leaguers on here, if I can get them back, they're still young. Guys like B.J. Boyd, Sanba Pimentel, Santiago Chavez. These are guys who are still young. We may still have options on them, so definitely would look into extending their contracts, because with the minor leaguers we can just offer them an extension, using the minor league minimum for the most part. So I'm not overly concerned with most of our upcoming free agents, like I said, except for Jed Lowry, Jonathan Lucroy, and Matt Joyce here. So, and for the pitching side, my only major interest there is ensuring that at least we get Trevor Cahill. If he performs well during the season, at least we keep him. So again, we'll have to take a look at that again as in a couple months and see how everybody's playing, how they're performing, and decide if we want to bring them back next year or not. All right, so that's it for our upcoming free agents. We're going to take a look at our minor league system. So the beauty of this game is that it basically gives you the entire minor league system to your disposal. So you're able to develop players, you're able to move players up and down depending on just different reasons, performance based, or if you just still want to see them develop a little bit more. So here you could see all of our teams. We've got Nashville Sounds, our AAA team that plays in the Pacific Coast League. You got Midland Rockhounds, our AA team that plays in the Texas League. And then you've got Stockton Ports, our Advanced A that plays in the California League. And you've got Beloit Snappers, our general regular A. They play in the Midwest League. And then you've got the Vermont Lake Monsters. That's our short season lower A. They play in the New York Penn League. And then you have our two rookie leagues, the Arizona Rookie League and the Dominican Rookie League. So we'll quickly glance at each one of these minor league teams and just check out the top players on each team. So I've got Brett Anderson starting out from the minors in our AAA system. He's a guy who we could definitely use if we have any of our starting pitchers, or even maybe I'm not sure. I want to use him as a starting pitcher right now. I think I've got a good bullpen. So if we have any players who are struggling or injured, Brett Anderson is an option that we can bring him up. He's true and tested. He's a veteran in the MLB, so we have an idea of what he can do. If you could look at his career, he's got a 3.71 career ERA. Ben Bracewell is another starting pitcher who is making his second year in AAA. I think he's pretty much getting to full development. I don't see a lot of room left for him to really develop beyond what we've seen in him so far. He has shown he has the ability to be a major league pitcher, but this is the year he's gonna have to show that. If you go back to his AA season in 2016, he really pitched well, and then he struggled the following year in Midland, And then last year in AAA, he pitched just okay. I mean, that's sort of MLB average area there, but he's also another option that we've got in case we run into starting pitcher issues. His stuff is just below average. He has average movement and just average control. His fastball, it's not the most powerful fastball. He can get up to 92 miles per hour, and that's about it. It's slightly above average. And then he just has an average slide and changeup. So there's nothing that stands out about Ben. But he has the capability at least to pitch some innings, and we'll have to see if he delivers this year in AAA. Josh Lucas, I'm excited about Josh Lucas being in our AAA system. Let's see, his history was traded by the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals, last year in exchange for another minor leaguer, Casey Meisner. Josh Lucas has pretty good makeup for a relief pitcher. He's got just above average stuff and just less than average movement with some above average control. His arsenal of pitches, he's got 3 pitches, all of them above average, fastball, sinker, slider. All along, he's performed really well in his career for the most part, and it's been in the minor leagues. He's 27 years old, so he's definitely a good backup option we have in AAA. Again, he's getting up there in age, so development may start to reach its limit, but he's there if we need him. We can bring him up to back anybody up in our bullpen. And then the prospects, we already went through most of these prospects in our last video. Franklin Barreto, second baseman, he's got immense potential, and he's a guy that we keep a close eye on because he has the athleticism that we're looking for. He's got above average speed, that's actually plus speed, and decent base running ability. He can play shortstop, but he at times tends to struggle with his swings. He came in with a lot of expectation as far as his power. He's only 22 years old, so there's still a lot of upside on him. I mean, I could possibly leave him in AAA for another season. I don't think we need to call him up yet, but of course we'll have to see how the active roster team plays out. I just don't think he's fully there yet. I think he still's got some developing to do, but he's a bright spot for us. He's a good player that one day we hope to see him playing for the major league team. Sheldon News, third baseman, who can also somewhat play shortstop. Just average. He can make good contact with the bat, but he doesn't really offer much else. He's 23 years old, so there's still opportunity for him to develop. But so far, there's nothing really that stands out about his ability. So we'll just have to wait and see how he develops. Again, he's done really well in AA, but that's a small sample. He only had 75 plate appearances last year in AA. So, but he also played part of that season in Advanced A. So, and he made good contact. He had good on base percentage. So there's his stats look better than his ratings. So we'll have to kind of see if that continues. If not, we may have to send him down. I mean, he's 23 years old. I still feel like there's a lot of opportunity for him to develop. I don't think he's MLB ready yet. That's basically a snapshot of our AAA team. We'll glance over at the next team, Midland. This is our AA team. Let's check out the key players. So we've got Tucker Healy, who is another pitcher. He's basically been with Oakland for some time. I believe he was drafted by Oakland in 2012. That's right. He's an okay pitcher. He's a guy that I think has a decent a good chance of making it to the majors. He's always going to be a relief pitcher because he has only two pitches that he can throw. He's got a plus fastball and a plus slider. He has good mechanics. His stuff is above average. His movement is good. May have some problem with his control, but it's not completely bad. So definitely has good potential. He's already pitched really well in AA, in AAA. So it's a guy that we'll keep monitoring. I think considering his age, there's not too much room for him to continue to develop. So we could potentially see him in AAA and see how he performs during the season. The rest of the guys, Trey Cochran, another relief pitcher who has closer ability. His stuff is average, but could develop to above average. Got average movement, average control, but he's got some decent potential there. Has two pitches in his arsenal. He's got a fastball and a slider. Still developing. I think he's still a little bit of a long ways away from being considered for an MLB call-up. JB Wendelken, 25 years old, relief pitcher. He has good potential as well. I think he could be borderline starting pitcher, emergency starting pitcher. For the most part, he's a bullpen pitcher. He throws right. The stuff is just slightly above average with less than average movement and just average control. The three pitches he throws are a fastball and a curveball that are just above average and an elite level changeup. So all in all, he can develop into a decent player. He's already actually made his major league debut 2016, pitched 12 and 2/3 innings, had a 9.95 ERA, and that whip 2.13. Of course, that explains the 9.95 ERA. So got hammered really badly on his major league debut, but still has the potential to make another run, I think. And then we already talked about Grant Holmes previously. Catcher Sean Murphy. It's usually harder to see a lot of catchers being listed as top prospects. Sean Murphy is just an average catcher who has not the greatest batting potentials, but as a catcher with a decent arm, he's definitely worthwhile keeping around. Catchers are a little bit difficult, to come by, at least very good catchers. So you don't really focus too much on the batting average and stuff like that when you're looking at a catcher, because their position is that unique that really, if they have a good arm and can stop guys from stealing bases, that's all you can ask for. So Dalton Jeffries, he is a starting pitcher who has pitched okay with a very, very small sample of stats. I mean, he's got 18 and 1/3 innings combined. Was in rookie league in 2016. Somehow jumped up to advanced A. I have a feeling that I'll be moving him back down to potentially the low A's, because I mean, he does have some potential in his makeup, but I think there's a lot of development left for him. 22 years old. Definitely don't think we'll be keeping him in Double A. So wouldn't do a lot of movement today, just because to shift one player down, we have to figure out who we're going to bring back up, especially if we're shifting somebody from Double A. We need to do a little bit more of an assessment to see what other talent is there that we can bring back up if we do move somebody down. So we won't do any roster movements today, other than just at a glance look at some of these minor league rosters. So that's it for Double A. We're not going to spend too much time with the rest, just because once you get to the Single A, even if it's advanced A, you're basically looking at a lot of guys who are still really in that stage where they're developing. So there's not too much you can tell about them yet. We can glance just to see names. You can see our best top players in Single A. Evan Manarino, who's a pitcher. I think he's a relief pitcher. Luis Barrera, Brendan Butler, and then we got some top prospects there. So when you start getting down to this level, it's more of a I wouldn't say just guesswork when you're looking at the players' talents, but it's a wait and see. So the whole idea, though, is you have to actively manage your minor league system. You have to move your players up and down depending on their development stages. You don't want to keep a good talent at a lower level. If they can develop quicker, if they're developing well, then you want to be able to move them to the right stage so that they can continue to develop, and hopefully they can make it to the big leagues. You don't want to waste all your talent just sitting back in your minor league system. This is our rookie league. As you can see, we've got 30 players. We wouldn't really bother looking too much into some of these players. A lot of them are just recent draft picks. Some have been in the system for some time. They just haven't shown enough potential in order to be moved out of the rookie level. But what you do want to do from time to time is come down to your rookie levels and just take a look at your players with the best and highest potential. So for example, this guy here, Lazaro Menteros, he is, according to the scouts, he is rated as having extremely high potential. So you want to keep an eye out for guys like these, because this is where some of your future all-stars could be. So you want to keep an eye out for these guys, because you want to move them up and down, like I said, between different levels of your system to give them a chance to develop. If they prove themselves, keep moving them up. And then when you see players who are really regressing, for example, getting up there in age, but their stats have not improved, then you can consider moving them down if you still want them in your system, or you can actually consider just getting rid of them. So you can release players so that you have some room in your minor league system to develop the guys that should be there, that need to be developed. Remember, each year we do draft players, and each year we also do discover players from our international complex. I quickly showed you guys what that looks like in our last video. We'll kind of go there just now again. It's easy to forget. A lot of people tend to find out of the park baseball a bit complex, because honestly it gives you the same responsibilities, of course not the same way in the real life, but it gives you just as much responsibility, that it's easy to get overwhelmed. For example, a lot of guys tend to forget about the international complex, but it's important to come here and take a look at players, because you may have some good potential. You might have that one player who could just be the next Rizzo, for example, sitting out here in your international complex, but you've just left him there. So it is crucial to come in here from time to time, check out the potential. For example, we've got this guy Juan Santana. Definitely moving him to my rookie league. He was just recently discovered. He's from La Romana, Dominican. The potential on him is excellent. Look at the ability that he has on his batting ratings. He's a right fielder, so this is a guy that we want to move him to our rookie leagues to start playing some ball and developing. So I'm going to move him to my DSL, which is also in the Dominican, and he can start to get hopefully get some playing time and start to develop. So we'll go to a rookie DSL and just update, and you could even see if your lower level managers have picked him to be on the roster, and there he is. No, that's Lazaro. All right, so he was a right fielder. Alonso Medina. No, that wasn't him. Let's see. Juan Santana. There he is. So he's now in our rookie league, DSL Dominican, where we expect that he'll potentially get some playing time. There he is. So he's our starting right field. So you want to occasionally move around, check out your minor league systems for talent that needs to be brought up. Keep an eye out for guys who are just taking up space and they're not performing well. You could move them down, you could release them. Check out your international complex to see if there's talent there that needs to be moved up and down. And that's basically that for this particular video. For our next video, we'll be advancing the game to opening day, and we'll be playing our first game of the season, and that will be against the Los Angeles Angels. The game will be in Oakland, and it will feature Sean Manai going up against the phenom Shohei Ohtani. Thanks guys for watching. Hope to see you on the next video.